the life of the modern female. Back in the day, I used to say the life of the modern Western female, but now the evil, the disease, the cancer is spreading to the rest of the world, right? Uh, if you must know, one of the biggest symptoms, not the only one, of the cancer spreading is collapsing fertility rates all across the globe. And obviously, we're not gonna chalk it up just to mainly to women, although they do have a massive part to play in this. With on many different dimensions when it comes to this, right? When it comes to how they vote, when it comes to economic prowess. But yeah, finance is another one of them. But you look at the modern female today, how their entire world is built on a lie. I have a very simple question, honest to God. How much longer do you think that the average modern female today, can keep this bullshit facade going? You live in a crumbling society and civilization around you. This is a global phenomenon now, right? And yet the way you still pretend like you are uplifting and you're upholding the societal fabrics, that you are still, you're climbing the ladder, you're doing good for the world. What good are you doing to the world today? That remains to be seen. I'm very confused, and I'm very fucking angry. You have the knowledge of the world at your fingertips, and yet I look at you. You don't do a single thing about it. You don't do a single thing in regards to, hey, what's going on with the world today? Other than not take any accountability, which is, as we all know, is your kryptonite. Other than that, the fact that, the easy thing to do, let's blame men for everything, which is the biggest mother of all copes, right? What are you actually doing to understand the root cause of the problem, or what's going on in a global scale? I mean, I said it before, I'll say it again. I don't hate women. I refuse to hate women. I try to understand them to the best of my ability. Just like how men have their own nature, good and bad, so do the females, right? No difference there. It's just their good and bad is different than ours. And I try to understand you guys. But the more I try to understand, I'm trying to put the pieces together, and I'm saying to myself, you have the knowledge of the world at your fingertips right here. Is there no curiosity in your mind asking yourself, what's going on out here? Why is everything going down to the shitter? Why do you refuse to wake up from this delusion? Why do you want to indulge in this lie? Or is this part of the accountability agenda? Or lack of accountability? I have a simple question. I know, you're all high and mighty now, as the system has been continuously propelling you forward, as again, part of the agenda, because you're nothing more than just a pawn in a grand game, nothing more. The system is elevating you, while at the same time it's bringing men down. And obviously the reasons for this is perfectly exemplary clear. It has always been men, right? That has toppled corrupt nations. Every single time they have led to these revolutions. Has it always ended well? No, most of the time it hasn't. Has women had a hand in these revolutions? Yes, they have. But on average, for the most part, it has always been men that has toppled corrupt, diseased nations. And what is the Western civilization today, if not those things? That is why men had to be brought down. That is why men had to be domesticated. That is why you, the female, as the gullible of the two sexes, had to be elevated to your new standing position of this divine goddess, who is at the same time equally a corrupt piece of shit as much as men, if not far more so than men. I remember, when my fathers, or when Gen Xers, or even when I was growing up, they used to tell girls, like, to be careful of boys, make sure you pay attention to these types of certain qualities. Now the tables have completely reversed, especially in the Western civilization. Now they tell boys to be careful of the girls that you're dating with. What does that tell you? I know you guys can keep patting each other in the back. The social media algorithms keep feeding you the same bullshit about how you're just a victim, how you're just so good, and men are the corrupt fuckers in this world. But deep down, I think we all know. Especially men. Men are starting to learn. Men are really starting to learn, right? One by one. What happens when men get angry? What happens when men have nothing left to lose? Hmm? What happens when men decide I have no more stake in this game and they decide to burn this fucking civilization to the ground? Who's going to stop them? You? The females? Absolutely not. Majority of you are fucking cowards. You're scared of your own shadow, right? Law averages. Is it the daddy big government state that your new husband is it gonna step in and stop him? And if so, if that's the case, what is gonna be the outcome of this? Everything's a give or take, right? Right? Is this newfound given powers to the state, is it gonna end just then and there, or is this state is gonna be now even more overbearing and overreaching? And it's gonna destroy you as well. It's gonna consume you along as well. I think the answer is obviously very clear. What happens when men get angry? What do you do then? What are you going to tell them? Just in the United States alone, men between the ages of 25 to 55. This is the most productive working years of adult male's life. About what 10 million plus now men have completely decided to opt out of the workforce for one reason or another. Yeah, some of them, there's external reasons, but a lot of them, they have simply decided to opt out of the workforce because one question remains: why the fuck would I do any of this? Why would I put my neck out for a civilization, a country, a nation that doesn't give a fuck about me, right? And men, let's not kid ourselves, men, right, especially white men, are still the number one majority of taxpayers to a system. Even your woman, as your empowerment and your careers, which we all know most of your careers are just, daycare professions. Let's cut the shit, right? Even then, you are still net tax importers. You still suck. You still leech off the system. You are still a net leecher. So how do you explain, how do you rationalize, how do you justify any of this, right? You can't. You really cannot justify any of this. So what happens when men get angry? What are you going to do? Are you going to stand there and say, I'm an independent, strong woman? Fear me, hear me roar? You will be wiped out. These men today, these young men today, these middle-aged men today, they are, not only are they giving up on you, they're giving up on society, and they will not give a single fucking ounce about you. They are completely becoming desensitized to violence. They are becoming desensitized to female manipulation tactics. What do you do then? You don't have an answer. You know what I'll throw another example out there. I'm surprised to find out that even Philippines, a country just 10, 15 years ago, who had a healthy, population replacement numbers of 3, has now dropped down to 1.7. So below the 2.1 number, right? So this is a disaster for these especially poor countries, right? They weren't even a middle income trap. They haven't even been able to attain middle income trap. What is it, like a day salary in Manila is $11 US? So 1.7, huh? Okay. So I looked into it, obviously. And yes, economics is to blame. But that's the same thing that's all over the world, right? In a world of abundance, in a world of explosion of goods, in a world of production that's scale is unimaginable to mine, everything's getting more expensive, everything's getting more out of control. And again, can I put the blame on women for this? Yes. How so? If these governments are printing endless amounts of money, leading to endless amounts of inflation, who's voting for these never-ending government programs? Who is the majority voters for them? Who is voting for daddy government to continuously give handouts, to tax the living shit out of the rest of us? You ask men to be top earners still, right? Hypergamy, right? You still want women don't fuck down. They fuck up or sideways, right? But yet at the same time, you're also making the state, coercing the state, using the state to tax these men to death. You see my point here, right? So let's get back to Philippines. Okay, 1.7, right? So I looked into it, obviously, like I said, finance, economics. A lot of these Filipino women now are basing their relationship models on Korean TV shows, soap operas, right? These literally hand drawn, literally the most feminine looking males, like especially Korean men in TV shows. Um, this is a country with 0.8 fertility rate, Korea. This is a country with the 4B movement, no cohabitation with men, nothing to do with men. This is a country that men and women are nearly at each other's throat. Okay? There's even a big story about the last Korea's prime minister, why he got impeached and all that, but that's a story for another time. I don't want to drift off topic. And you are watching this country's shows, and you are basing your own relationship, love life on that. Are you fucking kidding me? How is that any different than us watching these fucking worthless Hollywood celebrities whom, they have an average 3-4 divorces under their belt, acting in these love romance movies, and then and forget that even, just giving us like real advice in life about love and relationships. Who the fuck are these clowns to do that? I'm not gonna ask a poor person how to become rich. So you get the idea, right? But yet you're watching these Korean TV shows. My goodness, how pathetic, how stupid can you get, right? Your empowerment, the whole thing is built on a fucking lie. Under the disguise of empowerment, under the disguise of my body, my choice, you have done some of the most horrendous things humanly possible in the last 60 years, 70 years. Yeah, we talk about the was it Mayans? Yeah. No, I think it was Mayans or the Aztecs. I think they were both big on sacrifice, but I know one of them was much bigger than the other one. And I read the numbers a while ago. It was throughout the duration of the empire, it was a few million. Well, just in the USA alone, again, the modern female in the last 60 years has apparently supposedly aborted 55 to 60 million babies. Yeah, we look back and we call these people barbarians and this and that, but what are we going to do in 200 years when we look back at the modern civilization, especially modern female? What are we going to say about them? They were so amazing. They were fighting the right cause. You kill 60 million babies just in USA alone, but at the same time, we don't have enough employees. We don't have enough people. Let's bring everybody from anybody over here to the Western world, right? The logic. You got to love it, man. After nearly a century of feminism, right? You had it, man. You had all the soft power, you had look at the prohibition, right? Like, who was that? That was women. I understand. I supported that cause. I get it. Was it an overreach? Absolutely it was, by the state. But you, as the females, demanding that alcohol should be limited or prohibited because this is the societal downfall it's leading to. I get it. I completely understand. But you decided, no, that's not enough. And again, you've been brainwashed. It's not you. You're just a pawn. Like I said, there's many minds behind this, it was in the late 1800s when first concept of feminism was being developed. I remember some of these first women, they even said, like, we don't want to have the right to vote, right? Says a lot about you, how we came from there to now, like, hear me roar. My body, my choice. Just fucking pawns. Just fucking pawns. Nearly a century, and you have nothing to show for it. 25% of women in the Western world today is involved in some sort of sex work, whether it's streaming, and let's be honest. Again, law averages. Not every one of these girls is like, showing off their bodies. Some of these women, I watch quite a handful of women on YouTube or whatnot. Like, I read up blogs, and they're very smart, very respectable. Hat off to you. But on average, 25% OnlyFans, was it just conventional porn? Is this it? After these Hollywood actors are retiring, they're all becoming OnlyFans models. Models. Yeah, that's the word. Models. Yeah. This is inversion against God. This is inversion against nature. Right? I find myself, as I get older and older, to be more gotten in the ways of Christianity, path of Christ, and the path of the Bible. And what the scripture says is pretty abundant, You as the woman are supposed to be helpers of the man, That's what you were created for. He already has so much burden. He has a never-ending battle to fight with life, and a life that's getting harder and harder every day. And you are there to be his home, his comfort. But it seems now even the modern woman is looking for a wife too. So that's the fucking joke of it all, right? You know, the sad thing is, I think we are a cannon fodder generation. I think we are a generation where we are going to suffer. Where population collapse is inevitable for us. You know, millennials, Gen Z, you know, even some of Gen Xers. But I pray to God, and I hope someday in the future. I mean, like the world, the universe, everything goes in cycles, right? I pray to God. I hope that in a few hundred years, the world will finally reverse course. You know, the stink and the filth of the today, that the world's era today, will wash out, and we can return to the way of the God. We can return to no more inversion. I refuse to believe that you women are a lost cause because we're in this together, both of us. I'm not gonna stand here and lead to more division. The world is already. I mean, like what I said earlier about algorithms. What are they feeding you, especially you females and men too? A lot of these red pill men. It's the equivalent of feminism. Let's be honest, right? It is a lot of sad, desperate loser men, and I feel for them. I understand they have been brought down by the system, but we're men. We cannot give up. We cannot surrender. We have to see the macro picture. We have to be bigger than that. We have to build bridges, even though we don't want to, because now we live in a world, right? Whether if it's women, whether if it's blacks, whether anybody who feels they've been wrong in the past is like, now it's my turn, right? See, when you give the weak power, only in Hollywood fucking movies where you see you give the weak power, and then the weak apparently somehow learns to respect power and is, you know, so um, wonderful of a great person. But apparently, when you give the strong person who already has strength power, and then they go ballistic apeshit, completely a fucking inversion. Again, what a fucking lie, right? What a fucking lie. It is when you give the weak power that it completely corrupts their mind. It completely goes to their head, and they completely change. It is not the other way around. And we're seeing that. We are definitely seeing that. So I ask one more time, what happens when men say fuck it all? I have nothing to lose. I give no fucks about these females. I give no fucks about the system. What happens then? That's a question, right? And I think the answer is very clear. And if I was you, I'll be shitting my pants when I know the answer to that. Thank you for watching, and yeah, please subscribe, comment, you know, all this stuff. Thank you.